You guys know I love podcasting and listening to podcasts, and I'm guessing if you're listening to this that you love podcasts too. Have you ever considered podcasting yourself? It is a great way to reach your audience, grow your know, like and trust factor, and not need to show your face unless you want to. If it is something you've thought about but you don't know where to start, then head over to becomeapodcaster.uk/BAP quiz, BAP quiz, to access a 2-minute quiz that will help you work out what type of podcast might suit you. That's becomeapodcaster.uk/BAP quiz. You're listening to the Wedding Procast UK, the place to be if you are a UK wedding professional looking to grow and streamline your business. I'm your host, Donna Eade, 10-year wedding photography veteran and CEO at the Society of Professional Wedding Vendors. If you want to grow and streamline your business, this is the podcast for you. Make sure you hit subscribe where you listen or join our email list at www.spwv.co.uk. You'll find the sign up form at the bottom of every episode, and by doing so, you won't miss a thing. So let's jump into today's show. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I am so super excited to have you here as always. Today I have a guest with me. I love doing my guest episodes. Today we've got Carly Wall. Welcome back, Carly. Do you realise you are the first person to come on my podcast twice?
Oh, really? Oh, my God. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you.
So if you have not been listening since I began this podcast way back in 2020, Carly actually came on episode 53, which I believe was April last year. So I will link that episode in the show notes. There we talked about time and elevating your professionalism. Today, we are going to be talking about 3 things you should consider before changing your routine. So we'll jump into that in a minute, but I would love for you, Carly, just to introduce yourself and let everybody know who you are and what it is that you do.
Thank you. I'm Carly Wall. My business is Synergy Business Success, and I work with people who work on their own and basically need a fresh pair of eyes or a sounding board, or somebody to go, yeah, you're on the right track, or have you thought about doing this differently, or basically making sure you're spending your time on the right things. So I'm a bit of a business mentor / advisor, working on the more practical aspects of just ultimately how to keep your business running in the way that's best for you and what you're trying to achieve and how much time you've got, and how to make the right plans and how to move forward in the right way.
Yeah, I really love that, because the thing is when we're in business, and especially when we're working by ourselves, we can get so tunnel visioned and like, no, this is the way it's supposed to be done, blah, 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 blah. Or we're just like, I don't know how else to do it, but this is the way I'm going to do it. And just having that set fresh of eyes. I don't know, what on earth was that? Having that fresh set of eyes, is that right? I'm like completely confusing myself now. Can really make the difference, because you get somebody else's opinion, somebody else who has lived a different life, worked a different way, and has different knowledge. And you especially have got a really great knowledge of different systems, different softwares, different programs that can really make some of the most irritating, frustrating things in our business quick and simple. And you just don't know what you don't know. So Carly is definitely the person to go to if you're thinking, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah, that's it. I said to somebody yesterday, this is the sort of thing that people think when they need to work with somebody like me, is that they just say, there must be a better way. I must be missing something. I just don't know what it is. I need pointing in the right direction.
Mm-hmm. And Carly is the woman for the job. Brilliant. So on this podcast, I've said before now that the point of this podcast is to help wedding vendors to grow and streamline their businesses. And part of that is making sure that you have got your systems and processes in place, but also that you are utilising your time in a really efficient way. And we have gone over calendar blocking. We have gone over different time management tools and things like that on different episodes of the podcast. And if I can find them, I will link them in the show notes. So do head over to the show notes after you've listened. But one of the things that I think a lot of people do is they decide things aren't working for them and they find something new and shiny object syndrome, and they just go, yeah, okay, I'm just going to do that. And they just start with something. And then it fails and they think, well, that didn't work for me. And it's not necessarily that it didn't work, but maybe they just didn't get themselves set up and prepared. So this is why we are doing this episode today, because there is so many things that you should consider before you actually make big changes in your business. So I have asked Carly to come on and talk about it. So we're going to go through 3 things that you should consider before you start changing your routine. So I'm going to hand over to you, Carly, for item number 1. What should we consider?
Thank you. So first of all, I don't want anybody just changing their routine for the fun of it. Like, there's no fun in that. So when you think about needing to change things, mix things up a bit, or change your routine, the first thing you need to think about is why. So either the routine isn't working for you or something in it isn't quite right. So the first thing that I want people to consider is, why do you want to change your routine, or why do you feel like you need to change your routine? Try and identify what isn't working. If it's that you can't fit everything in the time that you've got, then that's a starting point for you to work on. If it's that balls are being dropped all over the place because you haven't got the right things in the routine, that's what you know. So try and work out what it is that isn't working, because you're not going to be able to fix it if you don't know that. So before you change anything, is you review how things are going now, and try and identify what about it isn't working and what's making you feel like you want to change it.
Oh, and that's a really good point, actually, because in an episode that I did, and I batched my episodes. I was a really good girl and I batched some episodes, so I'm not 100% sure which one it was because I did it in a huge recording. But I was talking about using an app called A Tracker, and I downloaded it specifically for this because I feel like my routine isn't working, and I'm in a bit of a transition phase at the moment. So I'm not sure coming up how much time I'm going to have to work on my business and how much time I've got to spend elsewhere. So I downloaded this tracker app and I actually sort of hit a button in it, which I haven't done this morning, which I should do. So I'm just in it now, podcast recording. There we go. And I'm hitting buttons to say what it is that I'm doing with my time. And it gives you like a pie chart at the end of the day, well, at any point in the day, but you can hit this report button. It gives you a pie chart of exactly where you're spending your time. And for me, I think what you said there is find out where you are now is so important, because I sit there and I think I've got no time. Why have I got nothing done today? And then looking back at this app, I'm like, oh, that's where I spent my time. Or that's where I lost half an hour right there down a YouTube scroll hole. And things like that. So I think analysing where you are currently and what isn't working for you or why it's not working for you is like key number 1 thing to do before you just go, I'm going to do something else.
That's it. You can't move forward unless you know where you are, first of all. Like, you'll just be changing things for the heck of it, and that's not, it's not going to work.
No, I'm a history buff, so I'm all about looking at the past and seeing. I absolutely love to look backwards and see where we've been and like on a global scale, where we've come from and things like that. So just doing that in your own recent history of your business, what have you been doing? And that works really well actually with the low season priority series that I did a little while ago, back in September, I think it was, end of August, beginning of September. And there's a download you can get for that. That walks you through the planning process. And one of the big parts of that was review what have you done this year, what's been working, what hasn't been working, because you can't plan for next year until you've reviewed the year that you've just had and what that looks like. So definitely great first thing to look at. What are we going on to after that?
So after that, I think it's a really great idea to think about what you want your routine to look like. So there might be some things that you want to put in there, and it might not always be work related, but what do you want your routine or your the pattern of your day or whatever to look like? Because there's something I say quite a lot, but it's your business, your rules. You do it in the way you want to, and there's no rule to say you can't take half an hour out in your day to go for a walk. There's no rule that says you have to be at your desk by 9 o'clock. And so try and work out what you would love your routine to look like. You might not be able to get it all, but let's, if there were no restrictions, what would you like your routine to look like? What would you love it to cover? What would you love to be included?
And that's, I think, really interesting, because for me, I feel like a lot of us, and I've seen it in so many TikToks and reels where people turn around and said, yeah, I didn't want to do a 9 to 5 job anymore. So I left, started a business, and now I work 24/7. And it's so true. And we had Matt Turner on the podcast a few weeks back. He is the author of Beyond the Pale, and he talks about hustle culture and that mentality of we get into business and we just suddenly think that we need to just be going all the time or else we're not doing it right, and how wrong that is. And what you just said there is just so true. It's like, if you're going to come away from corporate or not corporate, but regular day jobs, then you have the ability to style your day the way you want it to look.
Absolutely.
And although when you're first starting out, you might have to be working all the hours because you've got to get yourself out there and you've got to get yourself up and running. Maybe you've got the luxury of being able to do it slower, so being able to choose more of what you want your day to look like. But there's got to come a point where you go, okay, I've been at this for like 3-4 years now, and I have been like working like a dog, and it is time to pause and say, okay, what do I want my lifestyle to look like? And is that what it looks like right now? Because if it doesn't, you're going to end up at burnout.
Yes.
Because you're just going to keep going. And there's nobody to stop you, because you're working for yourself and you're working on your own. So there's nobody keeping an eye out. There's no health and safety HR manager going, oh, I think you're maybe doing a bit too much overtime there, Carly. You need to back up off that. And, maybe we can do a team building activity and go. There's nobody doing that for you.
And it's easily done. Working all the hours is easily done because, like you said, it's kind of, that's what the business dream is sold to us like. Like, the first few years are, hustle, work. And I can't agree with that any less than I do. But it doesn't have to only be that way if you don't want it to be. And we do have the power to go, oh, what do I want my day to look like? At some point when you feel like you're established in your business, if you're still working more hours than you want to be, you could change that.
Yeah. It's been a big thing for me recently, is like looking at like obviously doing this time thing. And the thing is even guys, even if, and I think I said this in my episode, even if you download it, you become so aware of what you're doing, because I'm like, every time I change, like literally I've got making tea on here and going to the bathroom because I wanted to calculate every minute, because the number of times, and maybe I shouldn't say this. No, I'm going to reveal too much, guys. TMI moment. Please do skip ahead 10 seconds if you don't want to hear it. But I take my phone to the toilet with me, and I will often just start scrolling on social media. And I've actually finished the toilet. I'm still scrolling on social media. I don't do what my other half does. I just sit there and go and watch a whole bloody YouTube video. But I do I probably spend too much time scrolling. And not enough time finishing what I'm doing and getting back to what I'm doing.
But you know what? You're entitled to a break, and if that's how you take your breaks, I say that's all right.
But it's interesting because then you see where it goes. So when I'm getting to the end of the day and I go, I feel like I've got nothing done, and I see that actually I spent half an hour in the toilet, I'm like, oh, okay, across the day, that's probably a bit too much. And now I have to say that it's different now because the weather's changed, but I was drinking around 2.5 to 3 litres of water on top of my cups of tea. So I did spend a lot of time in the loo in the summer anyway, just doing that. But we're going to go, okay, guys, I'm off the topic of toilets.
You've identified that you don't want your routine to look like that so much time in the bathroom.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. But it really makes you sort of conscious of what you're doing, and it has kept me on topic. So I batched my podcasts earlier this week as we're recording this, Carly. So I've only had this on my phone for a couple of days. But what I have noticed is it has kept me on task, because I don't want to go in my phone and press stop and go, okay, now I'm checking an email because I got a little notification on the bottom of my screen that I got an email. I don't want to go into the app and change it. I ignored it. Like, I literally had a day the other day where I didn't go into my emails until the end of the day because I was focused on what I was doing because I didn't want to change it on the app. So it can really sort of make you more efficient with your time before you even start looking at changing things. You see where your time's going. And and I've sort of realised that the things that I want out of life is I want to be able to stop work at dinner time.
Yeah.
Like when I'm going to sit down and eat my dinner, I don't want to go back to work after I've done that. And even this last couple of days, I've been able to just say, look, okay, actually, you've done quite a bit today and you don't need to go back to work. Like, it's done. It's fine. Yeah. And I think that's really, really important. So I love that.
It is so easily done to open up your laptop or whatever you work on towards the end of the day and think, I'll just do this one thing and sit there faffing about and then go, oh, well, it's 9 o'clock.
And then you're the half pokes his head around the door and goes, are you coming to sit with me at any time tonight?
Yeah. And then you think, what did I actually do in that time? Did you anything? I could have not done it, and nothing else would have, like nothing
would have gone wrong. Yeah, so true, so true. Yeah, I often get that. And especially with my podcast, because I've been in a position where I haven't been batching it. I've actually been like recording it on a Monday or Tuesday, and then I've been spending Wednesday editing it, uploading it, doing the blog post for it, putting it on Buzzsprout, creating the social media and doing my weekly email. And that is actually quite a lot in one day. Yeah. So it's no wonder that sometimes I'm still up till 11 o'clock doing it. And I'm like, why have you done this to us? So yeah, it's all about noticing how you're spending
I think actually what you said there is part of what you want it to look like. Is be with how many hours that you want to be, how many hours you want to dedicate to your work, because we have got to have a life outside of work. Like, we're still like ourselves. And that's part of that is going, when I want to stop at 3 o'clock to pick the kids up or 6 o'clock to make sure I have dinner, and I don't want to have to carry it back on afterwards. So when you think about what you want it to look like, that includes how much time it takes.
Yeah. And that might be different for other people. Like for me, I don't want to work after dinner, but for somebody who has children that are school age, they might want to stop at 3 so they can pick the kids up and do the tea thing. But then they might want to use a couple of hours in the evening because maybe they don't do anything but sit down and watch, crap TV. And it's a better use of their time, being able to spend that time with their kids and their family.
It's right. Just because somebody else frowns on it and goes, oh, I don't work in the evenings, doesn't mean that nobody should.
Yeah. If they don't work in the evenings, they're probably working all day, aren't they?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Yeah, it's a good point. It all looks different depending on who you are, and that is fine. We are all unique. So that's brilliant. Okay, what is our third thing that we need to be looking at?
Okay, right. I struggled to narrow it down to 3. So
we can do a bonus one. I
have got a bonus one. So number 3 is to, while you're clearing out your routine and thinking this is what I want it to look like, is to, and this seems really obvious, but you must keep the things that you absolutely need to do in your business just because you don't enjoy them. Because that's where somebody will clear that sort of thing out. Go, well, I don't enjoy that. I don't like doing that. I don't want that to be
accounts gone.
Yeah. Yeah. Is keep the things that you absolutely need to keep. And make sure that you spend the time that you've got for your routine is spend it wisely. So there's no point in, I don't know, faffing about building your email list and sending out emails if that actually doesn't help towards your plan, or get into grips with a new piece of software if actually the way you're doing it is fine and actually quicker because you know what you're doing. Is that so? Don't add new things into your routine for the fun of it, but make sure that the things that are in it deserve a place in it, because your time is precious. However long you're spending on your business each day, you want to look back and go, I made the most of that.
Yeah.
So keep the things that are really important, and also make sure the things in there are worthy of your time. They're actually making an impact on your business.
Yeah.
Or keeping your business going. rather than just adding stuff in because somebody said, oh, you know what you should be doing? You should be doing this. Is it right for you? Does it deserve a place in your routine?
That is so important. And I think the other thing that I wanted to sort of put in with that is the keeping an eye on what you're doing with that time. So you're saying keep the things that you need to have, but also, like I said with this app, be conscious of what you're actually doing. If you're going, okay, I want to go out for a walk at lunchtime, I want to end at 3 o'clock and then come back and do a couple of hours, 8 o'clock, whatever. This is how I want my day to look. And your work hours are going to be XYZ, then you need to make those hours work hours. So don't get distracted by social media. Don't get distracted by YouTube. Don't get distracted by your emails. Emails are part of your work, but they're busy work to me. It's like there is nothing so important that's like if somebody really, really wants to get hold of you, then why haven't they called you? Because, you know, that infuriates me. If somebody wants an instant response from me and they send me an email, I'm like, it's an email. That's like today's version of snail mail now, you know? If you want an instant reaction, instant message me.
Lots of people only check their emails at set points in the day. Like they might do it.
And they should, in my opinion.
First thing with my cup of tea, I'll have a look to see what came in like last night, overnight. Usually don't give it comes in overnight. Or and my messages. And then I tend not to check them again until in the afternoon, usually before I clock off for the school run. Same as you. If somebody needs me and it's urgent, rarely is, but they can call me.
And that's the thing is it rarely that urgent. It's rarely that urgent. And I know in the wedding industry, obviously, there are crises that can come about and people do need to get hold of you, but they're really going to call you if it's that kind of thing. So your emails to me is busy work and it's just going to distract. And I spoke about prioritizing your top 3 priorities for the year when we're going forward in an episode recently. And I said to you guys about breaking those priorities down across the year. So into months, what do you need to do each month to get that priority, that goal hit? And then breaking that down into what you're doing weekly and then putting that as your thing on your to-do list for that day. I need to do this because that's going to move me forward to that. And that gets done first before anything else. So that's kind of what you're saying here, Carly, is making sure that the things that are in your diary are important to reaching your goals. And answering your emails ain't one of them. And scrolling on Instagram isn't one of them. So it's a lot of fun, but it's so distracting and it can take up so much of your time. So definitely, even if it's a case, you know, you need these other things to be done, but focusing on those priorities, what's really important to moving your business forward. Do those things. Gosh. Excuse me. Oh, do you know what? I was watching a YouTube video earlier and it was when I woke up, guys, it wasn't work time yet. And it was about how Harry and William speak versus how the King speaks and the language. And it was a guy that is like proper language expert. So he was using these words that I don't know to describe the way they speak. And do you know that Harry doesn't say photo? He says photo. I'm like, what? Where's the T in that? And he doesn't put them. And William calls Charlotte. Like, it doesn't end with the T. The T isn't there. So YouTube auto-corrected it to Shana, I think. And I was just like, that's so bizarre. Because you think that the royal family speak very eloquently, but that's a complete aside. I don't know where that thing came out of my mouth. But yeah, it's just really important to... I completely lost where I was as well now.
You decide what is...
I'm distracted. That's exactly what I'm talking about, guys. Exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, keep those priorities like front and center. Do that work first, and then the fluff can come afterwards. That's what it was. First and fluff. I got both of them in my head and came out with some other word completely. And yeah, and that other stuff, it needs doing. Admin needs doing. Like I spent a day yesterday. No, it wasn't a day. Spent half a day yesterday in my admin stuff. So I was looking at it's a finance really, is doing my numbers, like what have I earned this year, what are my expenses, just topping all of that up because I haven't really touched it for a couple of months. And I was like, I need to get on top of it because I don't want to be behind when it comes to taxes and things. So I was doing that yesterday afternoon. And that's something that I barely do in my business because it's not part of actually what gets my business to move forward, but it is important. So I just took yesterday afternoon because I was so good with my batching earlier in the week. I'm a bit ahead. So I was able to, I found time to do that stuff that I don't normally do. And that is what this can do for you, is by looking at what you want in your day and making sure the important things are done first. If you are not being distracted by everything under the sun, then you can get that work done a lot quicker than you would normally get it done, and then have the time for that fluff stuff that, it needs to get around to at some point.
Yes.
Good. Okay, you've got a bonus one for us, Kat. Go on.
Right. So it's really important to remember that routines don't have to be the same all the time. So mostly I've referred to like a daily routine, what you need to get done in your day. That might not look the same every day. You might have a weekly routine. You might have a fortnightly routine, possibly monthly. I imagine that would be fortnightly, but repeated twice. So you're not looking to cram a bit of everything into every day. Mm-hmm. So your daily method of operation, or DMO, as you might see it referred to sometimes. Some people say, right, this is my DMO. I get this done each day. You might have those, but it's not the same things every day for everybody. You might go, right, in this week, these things need to happen, and that's going to be Monday, that's Tuesday, whatever. So routines don't have to be the same every single day. And also, they don't have to be the same year round. And I think this is particularly useful for people like the wedding industry.
Just what I was
there are going to be times when you are rushed off your feet, hopefully, and there are going to be times where it's off season and you've got more time for perhaps the forward planning and catching up with the accounts and things like that. That might be something. The accounts might be something you choose to take your foot off the pedal a little bit while you're so busy, knowing that when this point of the year comes, you'll sit down and immerse yourself in it for a couple of days and update it or whatever. So they don't have to be the same. And some people say, I'm going out of my routine. That's fine. You might have a summer routine and a winter routine. You might say those sorts of things I don't do in the summer, but I will do them in the winter because that's what works for you. And that's, we've always said that. It's what do you want it to look like?
Yeah.
When you're really busy, you might be quite happy to drop some of those things out of your routine because it makes sense, because you've got to focus on the right things. And, when it's busy season, the right thing to be doing is probably earning the money. And when it's off season, you tend to have a bit more time for the businessy type stuff. So the routine doesn't have to be the same all the time. It's perfectly fine to change it and say, from now, this is my routine, knowing that you'll change it back again when it's right.
Yeah. And we were speaking about this before we hit the record button, how I've talked about working an AB week and, taking customer calls on one week, but then doing the admin side of your business on the following week. And that's how you work. And definitely in the wedding industry, and I've spoken about it a lot in the last sort of 10 weeks, probably, about planning and moving into this planning season and how we're going to tackle 2023 and what our business is going to do and how we use our time now to plan for that. Because it's true, we are a more seasonal industry and there is a little bit of a loss of that. There are more people that are getting married in the colder months. They're crazy if you ask me, but this time of year is kind of my cut-off point. Like, I'm like, if you middle of October, and I'm like, why would you want to get married any later than that? I saw your anniversary pictures actually the other day on Facebook, I think it was. And I loved your bouquet. Love the colours, because I love autumn. Now, I'm not an autumn, my personal colour palette is cool winter, so autumn is not my colour palette to wear, but I love being in autumn. It is my favourite season. So in my head, my marriage, if I ever get one, is going to be an autumn wedding, because I want those golden leaves. I want that orange. I want some deep navy. I love the colours of autumn. So it is this time of year that I would want to get married. But, November and December, are you crazy people? It is so bloody cold. And if you want outdoor wedding photos, it's so unfair to make your guests stand around for like an hour in the freezing cold. But
So good fun.
yes, I've been there. I mean, I did a wedding for actually my stepsister. 14th of December, she got married. I have never been so cold in my life. I was literally I was horrible.
That's
I was like, never again am I doing a December wedding. That was it for me. But yeah, just knowing that the routine is going to be different. And even if there are things that you're just like, oh God, I can't do that, there are people out there that can help with this. So there are VAs. And if there are certain things that do need to be done in the summer, but you just know that you're not going to have time for it, then hire a VA. You don't have to have a VA forever. You can hire them for a season and you can hire them for certain lengths of time. So definitely look at that as an option if there are things that you like. Actually, for my lifestyle, what I want my summer to look like is I'm going off and I'm doing weddings and I'm talking to my clients, but I don't want to do any of the back end stuff because it's just too much. But it needs to be done, some of it. Then get somebody else in. And I bang on all the time about automation and MailChimp and getting things set up so that it's automatically doing that kind of customer service stuff for you behind the scenes once you book somebody in. And I think that's really important too. But then in the autumn, winter time, that's the time where you can go and look at these processes and look at refining them and updating them and looking at how they're working for you, if they're working for you, and look at changing them. So I think that looking at how you prioritize your routine and what you're going to do on a day-to-day basis, like you say, Carly, it does not have to be the same day to day. It doesn't have to be the same week to week. It doesn't have to be the same season to season. It's what works for you. And you have to be, I'm somebody who doesn't really like change that much. I like to get into a routine and stay to it. But if your life and your work dictates that things are different at different times of year, just go with that. Don't sort of sit there and be angry at yourself. Like you were saying, Carly, like, no, but I always do this on this day. It's just like, but if it doesn't need doing, it doesn't need doing. If you haven't got clients calling you and that's the time you normally take client calls, it's time to do something else with that time. And it frees up that time for you as well. So I'm absolutely loving this. So if you've missed any of them, grab a pen. I'm just going to go over them for you again. So number one is, what have you been doing? Let's have a look at what you did before. What have you been doing in this last sort of 3 months, 4 months? Download the app, see where you're spending your time, and just analyze whether that is something that you want to be doing or whether you want to be doing something completely different. Does it fit with your lifestyle? And then you need to look at your lifestyle. What is it that you want to be doing? Do you want to be going for a walk? Do you want to end your work day at a certain time? Do you want to start later? Hey, do you want to always lay in and start at 11 o'clock every day? Wouldn't that be lovely? Yeah, you don't get that with school run, unfortunately. And then remember what you need to keep doing, because those are really, really important. That the things that you have to do, whether you like them or not, have got to be in that diary, in that work time. And then you don't have to keep your routine the same. So you can evaluate this. And I've said this before when we've talked about productivity, is that you want to run with a routine for about 3 or 4 months, see how it goes for you, then evaluate it and change it. So it might be that you are changing your routine quite regularly, but it's because you're trying to find your happy medium, what is actually working for you. And then when you've got something that works, then that's fine. And it may be that you're changing it every 6 months because of the seasonality of what you do. It may be that you're changing it more often because of just your lifestyle. Maybe you want to be able to take more time off in the summer, even though you're working. So you want to take more time off and do your client work. But then in the winter, you're quite happy to work through the whole of winter and do all of the business stuff. So you can manage your time better when you understand what you want from your day. Anything else you want to add there, Carly?
I was going to suggest, so you said that you've mentioned an app that you use to sort of keep track of what you're doing. And another app that I recommend is one called Habatica. And it's like a game, and you tell it your routine. And once you have to tell it that you're doing the things, and you earn like it's based on like a wizardy world, and the graphics are quite old school, so quite blocky, but you earn coins but like for doing your routine, you earn coins. And for say, I mean, you can just say you've done the things, but like that's not the point. Obviously.
That's not the point. You're only cheating
But
yourself.
you can level up. You can buy extra things. You can trade with people. And everybody on there is because they're trying to keep up with their own habits and routines. And so
Gamifying it, I love it.
Exactly, because that's something that if you think, oh God, this whole business thing's like pretty boring. Because something, it can be doing the stuff day in, day out can be. So using something, if you can turn that into a little bit of a game, if that's what's going to encourage you.
As long as it doesn't distract you. And just like, I'm just going to say I'm doing it because I want more coins. Yeah, I love that. Right, you're going to have to send me the link to that so that I can put it in the show notes because I've got no idea how you spell that. So yeah, I love that idea, gamifying it and making it something that's a little bit more fun. Awesome. Right, Carly, thank you so much for your time. I always love it when we get to have a conversation. They're always such good conversations. So thank you so much for coming on again.
For a second time.
So where can people find you on the old internet?
So mostly I'm on my socials. So it's synergy.business.success. That's for Facebook and Instagram. And I have a group on Facebook. It's aimed at women, but we're open to it. Anybody who wants to join in, which is called Business Bestie Hangout. And
it's brilliant. I love it in there.
Thank you. Yeah, I would just usually share my tips. You'll get to see me talking. I usually share like a bit of a longer tip each week and just some questions, get you thinking about stuff for your business, keep you on track. Massive on accountability in there, trying to help you keep on track and then celebrating you at the end of the month when you get stuff done.
Carly shakes pom-poms, guys.
I do, to cheer on everyone that's got stuff done. At the end of the month, you get an actual cheer from me, and that's the Business Bestie Hangout. And those are the places where you can find me.
Brilliant. I will link to all of those in the show notes, guys. Definitely come over and join us in Carly's group. It's actually one of the groups that I really, really enjoy being part of. I recently did a huge digital detox where I just got rid of loads of people. Like I had over 700 people on my friends list and I was like, I don't even know half these people. So I got rid of about half of those people. But then I went onto the groups and pages and I was just like, even though those particular pages and groups weren't necessarily filling up my feed, I feel like it's a weight on you, like it's an unconscious weight. And by deleting all of the ones that I'm just like, I'm never going to look at that or I'm never going to interact with it. They're like groups that I joined because it was like a pop-up group for something, but they hadn't actually deleted it because you can't delete groups. You have to get everybody out of the group before you can delete it. So nobody's going to go through and delete 3,000 people that joined them for a pop-up thing. They just archive it and then you're still in it. So I just deleted all of that and now I see much more on my feed of the stuff that I want. And part of that is Carly's group. And it is a really nice active group actually. And I think like a lot of, I don't know how you've done it, Carly. It's like magic because so many other groups on Facebook are just dead and there's just nothing going on. And there just doesn't seem to be any way to re-engage the people in them. And people do. We chit chat in there, we hang out. And we have a really good time. So definitely worth it.
Somebody said to me the other day, your group is quite small. And you don't know what, though, the engagement is high. And I think we do have that feeling of knowing each other. There's people that we haven't met in real life, but we have that sense of knowing them and wanting to chat.
Cheer them on.
And things like that. It's the feel of it is much more than a massive anonymous group where you're just shouting out the door. And nobody responds.
Hoping that somebody hears you.
Yeah.
Right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We have spoken today about the 3 things to consider before you change your routine. Let us know over on social what it is that you are going to be looking at changing and what you're going to do before you change it. Follow me at Donna SPWV on Instagram. Tag me and Carly in. Share this episode with your colleagues and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now. Don't forget to hit those stars and leave a review of the podcast where you listen if you found value in what you heard today. It's a free way you can help the podcast reach more people just like you.